Having introduced Zanjan province in the previous program, today we will move on to Fars province and the city of Shiraz and get acquainted with the old province. Shiraz is the capital of Fars province, one of the most beautiful and historical cities in the world. Farsi or Persian, the language of ancient Fars, has become the official language of Iran. Shiraz has more than 850,000 inhabitants and is situated in southwestern Iran, around 200 kilometers from the Persian Gulf and 1,800 meters above sea level. Different people who have lived in Fars province, such as the Aryans, the Samis, and the Turks, work together to form the Iranian culture. As an ancient city, Shiraz has various historical areas including Pasargad, Pasargad was the first capital of Fars, about 2,500 years ago. It was also the capital of the Achaemenid king Cyrus the Great. Pasargad is located about 77 kilometers from Persepolis. It was built by Cyrus the Great. Among the interesting sites at Pasargad is an 80-meter long and 18-meter wide stone platform. It is believed to have been the foundation of a palace. The most important monument in Pasargad is undoubtedly the tomb of Cyrus the Great. It has 7 wide steps leading the tomb, which measures 534 meters in length by 531 meters in width, and has a low and narrow entrance. Cyrus II of Persia, commonly known as Cyrus the Great, also called Cyrus the Elder by the Greeks, was the founder of the Achaemenid Empire, the first Persian empire. Cyrus is remembered as the father of human rights. He was the first king to set his people free to practice any religion they wanted and abolished slavery at that time. One of the few surviving sources of information that can be dated directly to Cyrus's time is the Cyrus cylinder, a document in the form of clay cylinder inscribed in academic cuneiform. The United Nations declared the relic to be an ancient declaration of human rights in 1971. About 50 kilometers northwest of Shiraz, at the foot of the Rahmat Mountains, one encounters the vast platform and remains of Persepolis, the grand ceremonial capital built by Darius the Great and his successors about 2,500 years ago. Archaeologists are still searching through the debris and ashes that have covered Persepolis since Alexander the Great destroyed it in 330 BC. Most of the structures have already been relieved. One of the unique masterpieces in the field of architecture in the history of Iran is Bakil Mosque in Shiraz. This masterpiece and historical monument has a shorter history compared to other historical monuments in Iran. Bakil Mosque is one of the several buildings built in the Zandia area. It consists of an area of more than 11,000 square meters with 8,660 square meters of infrastructure. The southern Shabistan with 48 identical spiral stone columns is one of the architectural features of Iran and one of the scenic areas of this mosque. This mosque is a masterpiece in terms of various carvings and designs that have been engraved on it. The inscriptions written on Bakil Mosque can be seen in the 3 writings of Nastaliq, Thals, and Nas, all of which are among the valuable and eye-catching writings. This large building also has a very pleasant and spectacular variety of tiling. Bakil Bazaar is located next to the historic bath and the unique Bakil Mosque. Due to the proximity of these three complexes and also their short time distance to other tourist destinations, it has become one of the most visited tourism complexes in Shiraz. This bazaar is one of the best works left by Karimkhan. This bazaar extends from near the Isfahan gate to the entrance of the old bazaars and consists of rooms with a wide platform of both sides. It has 74 open and well-proportioned arches, and there is a high vaulted intersection in the middle of a four-way. Western and Eastern bazaars intersect. The Karimkhan Castle. The Karimkhan Castle is a castle located in downtown Shiraz. It was built as part of a complex during the Zand period. It is named after Karim Khan. The fortress of Karim Khan was built in 1180 AH. Karim Khan invited the best architects and artists of the time and bought the best materials from other cities and abroad for the construction of the castle, which was quickly constructed. During the Qajar period, it was used as the governor's seat. After the fall of the Qajar, it was converted into a prison and the paintings were plastered over. Today, it is a museum. The Nasir al-Mulk Mosque, also known as the Pink Mosque, is a traditional mosque in Shiraz. It was built during Qajar era rule of Iran. The mosque includes extensive colored glass in its front and displays other traditional elements such as the panch kase or the five conveyed design. It is named in popular culture as the Pink Mosque due to the usage of the considerable number of pink colored tiles for its interior design. Shiraz is known as the city of poets, literature, and flowers. It is also considered by many Iranians to be the city of gardens due to the many gardens and fruit trees that can be seen in the city, for example, the Iram garden. Iram Garden. Iram Garden is a historic Persian garden in Shiraz. It belonged to the leaders of the Qashqai tribe before being confiscated by the central government. The garden and the building within it are located at the northern shore of the Khoshk River in the Fars province. Both the building and the garden were built in the middle of the 13th century by the Ilkhanat, or a paramount chief of the Qashqai tribes of Pars. The original layout of the garden, however, with its charbagh Persian paradise garden structure, was most likely laid in 11th century by the Saljuqs, and was then referred to as Bagh-e-Shah and was much less complicated or ornamental. The structure housed 32 rooms on 2 stories, decorated by tiles with poems from the poet Hafez written on them. The structure underwent renovation during the Zand and Qajar era. Shiraz is also the birthplace and resting place of the great Persian poets Hafez and Sadi. The tomb of Hafez, commonly known as Hafeziyeh, are 2 memorial structures created in the northern edge of Shiraz, in memory of the celebrated Persian poet Hafez. The open pavilion structures are situated in the Mosalla Gardens on the north bank of a seasonal river and house the marble tomb of Hafez. Hafez was born in Shiraz in 1315 and died there in 1390. a beloved figure of the Iranian people who learned his verses by heart. Hafez was prominent in his hometown and held a position as the court poet. Tomb of Sadi. The Tomb of Sadi, commonly known as Sadia, is a tomb dedicated to the Persian poet Sadi in the Iranian city of Shiraz. Sadi was buried at Khangah city. During the rule of Karimkhan, a two-floor tomb of brick and plaster, flanked by 2 rooms, was built. On the walls around the tomb are 7 verses of Sadi's poems. Quran Gate. Quran Gate or Shiraz Gate is a historic gate in the north of Shiraz. By the time of the Zand era, it had sustained a lot of damage, so it was restored and a small room was added on top, in which handwritten Qurans by Sultan Ibrahim were kept. Travelers passing underneath the gates were believed to receive the blessing of the holy book as they began their trip or journey from Shiraz. Unfortunately, in March 2019, due to the mismanagement of the Iranian regime, floods engulfed the region with serious destruction and the death of several tourists. Experts attribute the devastating flood in Shiraz to the Iranian regime's mismanagement, leading to 30% deforestation and vegetation loss, elimination of huge areas of arable land and farms, lack of waterways, removal of soil from flood dams, blockage of streams, diversion of rivers and causing blockage, and building unconventional villas on agricultural lands by government members. Shiraz is a city of delicious food and original flavors. Cabbage rice is a traditional food of Shiraz, which is usually prepared from cabbage, rice, and special herbs. To cook this dish, first the white cabbage is fried a little and then added to the brewing rice. Spices, turmeric, and saffron are used in this dish. Usually small meatballs, minced meat, chickpea flour, and onion juice, fried in the form of small balls, are mixed with the rice. Shirazi bean rice is made with cowpea beans. The ingredients for this dish are rice, cow beans, dill, saffron, cinnamon, and meat. Sometimes minced meat is used in this dish instead of pieces of meat, which is considered tastier by some. The diversity of cultures in Iran has led to the diversity of clothing and has brought a color for every part of Iran. An example of local and traditional clothes of the people of Fars province is the clothes of tribes. Tribal women's clothing is mostly made in very cheerful and varied colors inspired by nature. The Qashqais are people in the heart of nature, interested in the good beliefs of the past and deep-rooted customs and traditions. In the Qashqai dance, men and women in local customs and colored handkerchiefs form a large circle and raise and lower their hands in harmony with the movements of the drum and flute. In the November 2019 uprising, Shiraz was one of the cities that revolted against the dictatorship. They were able to drive back the invading forces by attacking them and take control of large parts of the city. but the repressive forces and the regime's agents surrounded the city, fully armed and with tanks, and shot at the people. During this uprising, a large number of young people in Shiraz were killed. The Iranian regime continues to crack down on the warm-hearted people of the city, with death sentences and torture for those who took to the streets in protest of injustice. Thank you for joining us in this program. We will be with you in our next programs, introducing you to other provinces of Iran.